more regarding the internet and people that are obsessed with it. So somebody knows a Star Wars computer geek, and I call him that because this person we're focusing on is obsessed with Star Wars in addition to computers and was an early adopter of the internet. And in the 90s, during the PS1 era, Star Wars computer geek knew all of these tricks. He was able to access the deep web and order drugs using something similar to Bitcoin, some kind of a secret proto-Bitcoin. And he knew all of these obscure websites that would show streaming movies and also websites that were more shocking than surface shock sites. So he knew some very nefarious stuff, and this is a teenager I think we're talking about here. And his family owned a computer repair shop, and it's possible that, a lot of businesses are actually fronts. Usually people point to mattress stores as being fronts, and sometimes there are also these fake restaurants that are always closed and everyone's, the staff is rude and they don't serve anything. A lot of pizza joints are fronts for drugs, and they have a secret menu. Anyway, a very common phrase you'll hear is, tell them my name sent you. Tell certain staff members that so-and-so sent someone, and then they go, oh, okay, here's a secret menu. You hear that so many times all over the place, and it's one of those secrets in plain sights that we don't think anything of it. It's like people throwing devil horns. We see it so often, we think nothing of it. And the more you're exposed to something, the more your brain considers it background noise and will filter it out. If you're surrounded by something, you just get normalized to it. And you can really get used to anything. Even if you lived in horrible conditions, you'd get used to it. If you're being abused, it would just be a normal day to you. Oh yeah, you can get used to anything. So, you'll notice that extreme computer geeks might be called wizards. They often have wizard-sounding names like Zoltan. And there is definitely a connection between digital technology and magic. And again, there's people that swear up and down that crystals have genuine, actual, what can be called magic, due to lack of a better word, properties. There's probably different things going on here. I don't even know what demons are. I think demons are scripts that are sentient. They're not goblins, okay? That's a portrayal or a representative image. You shouldn't depict demons or angels because they do not have a form. And so as visual shorthand, these absolutely nonsensical paintings of people wearing white robes with wings taped to them, or green goblins with pitchforks, really stupid actor-type stuff. I mean, even though those paintings can be really impressive, at the end of the day, it's essentially a high-effort version of a photo. They just get someone to stand around wearing a costume, and they'll play the part of an angel or a demon for the purpose of one image that tells a story. Think of a silent movie that is nothing but one frame. Anyhow, there's problems with that because these visual metaphors can really alter the way people perceive something. It's an association trick. It's a mental trick. And here's some dumb example that kind of sticks in my craw. The Santa Claus mythos in America, it's not quite like Sinterklaas from other countries, but the American version of Santa Claus has the reindeer, and the reindeer are more often than not portrayed as springy bucks, like regular bouncy deer instead of as caribou. In real life, reindeer are caribou, but usually in Santa-related media, they're not going to portray the reindeer as caribou. They're going to be white-tailed deer or something, which is absolute nonsense. And that's an example of a bunch of different artists have agreed to use the same wrong, incorrect image to portray something. Also, the Santa reindeer is a reference to the practice of feeding a caribou Amanita muscaria and then collecting the reindeer's urine and then drinking it. That is why Santa has flying reindeer, except those things do not make you feel that way, okay? Don't touch them, they make you feel drunk. Anyhow. Alright, so regarding Star Wars computer geek, he always knew how to hack consoles and do strange things with them. His family owned a computer repair shop. This geek owned a cracked Xbox from way back then, and he always knew how to get pirated stuff to work. And he basically knew about the dark web back in the 90s. Well, the internet began as something benign, but the people that were on it were always absolute freaks. Well, most of them were, and only a few of them were normal. And then the golden age of normal people on the internet ended right when the smartphone age began. And smartphones are not designed to be typed on, and not many people have mobile keyboards, and smartphones are only good for passively consuming media or reading or talking or getting spied on. So they're not good communication devices for things that truly matter. But it's a common tool people have, and I don't have one myself, but I know that people can use them in a way that benefits me, as in, if you leave something laying around, people might take a photo of it and give it a signal boost. And the angle would be, you leave a note that makes somebody angry, and the freak that got triggered will take a photo and send it to everybody and demand to know who's responsible, and they're just going to have this outrage over it, and people are going to find out because they're going to be ranting and screaming, and then people are going to go, what's all this outrage? And then they come take a look. That's a fun thing to do. If you can piss off a whole bunch of people all at the same time, that would be great. It's fun. The best part is when they get really paranoid, and then they start overcompensating so hard that they reveal themselves, and the more agitated they are, the more likely they're going to reveal something that they would rather keep to themselves. And if they get revealed enough from them getting outraged, and if they get angry enough, they might do something that results in them never being a problem ever again. And these freaks that abuse hormones, they're on a lot of medication. Their hearts are really jacked up. They drink a lot of energy drinks. They take medication that screws with their hearts. A lot of them are really fat. They'll probably have a stroke. And a lot of them are alcoholic, and this is a combination that will end them. So, well, I guess if they go dark, they'll just get replaced by 10 bots. Because the internet, people are more aware of empty internet, and so nonetheless people are more isolated and alone than ever. And now the government's been telling people to stay indoors, but nobody that has 2 brain cells actually believes in this hoax that is going on indefinitely. So all I can say is you have to force yourself to go outside and be friendly and outgoing. Even if you're shy, you have to push past it. You have to go out there and talk to people in real life, even if it's awkward, because you don't really have a choice. Time is running out. Time is twice as fast as it used to be in the 90s, and if you want to get something done, it takes effort. It's easier said than done, and you have to keep at it. But the more you keep at it, the better off you get. You get shorter, more minimalistic. You do things faster. You take fewer steps. It streamlines itself. And a lot of people are obsessed with their egos and their narcissism. They want to win contests. They want to win fights. They'll invent a fight so that they can try to win it. They will invent a contest and try and win it. Don't play that game. Like, people will spend hours trying to paint up a beautiful picture and get praised for it, but if you just take a Sharpie and a notepad, you can do a really rough mock-up that has the same image elements in it. If I did a Sharpie minimalistic rendition of the Mona Lisa, people would know what it is. If I drew a Bell UFO, people would know what it was, even if it's just a few lines. I could just do a stick figure rendition of Saturn eating his son. People would know what it is. That's actually the power of art. The power of art isn't necessarily being impressive and getting praise for spending 300 hours on something. The real power of art is short strokes or long strokes, whatever. The fewest strokes to get an image across. Actually, a fun game that people have with that concept is, you probably heard of the Loss comic, Control-Alt-Delete Loss, and the Happy Merchant. People like to do these renditions of that. You'll see them everywhere. And it's actually pretty fun. And now writing by hand, text by hand, you can come up with a shorthand for conveying sounds and characters that a computer doesn't have, or I don't want to go digging through wingdings or some obscure font characters, but you could just do that on paper and a computer can't really do it. But somebody could take a photo of it and give it a signal boost. Remember passing notes in class, but I remember when I was going to school, instead of passing notes, the students would be texting. They were like using the 2000s phones and texting each other. They'd be like sitting side by side. And they were doing things that take a lot of time and money and are cumbersome. And Yeah, they had to pay for that. Well, their parents had to pay for it. Like, how about pass a paper note? Okay, and if the teacher takes it away, it's not a big deal. So we'll have to bring that back, because if you're jotting down a note, it's not like a computer's going to find out about it. There's a few AIs that can rip text off of an image, but AIs don't really know what's written in sloppy cursive. And yeah, the word cursive is a suspicious word, and grammar is the word grimoire. So yeah, we have spelling, like spellcasting, grammar, grimoire, cursive writing, and witches are obsessed with sigil magic. But we don't really need to do that. But they are common. You might have noticed that signatures, the big flourishy John Hancocks, or the artsy comic artist signatures that are kind of abstracted, they are sigils. And doctors, those are basically priests of Baphomet. You know how doctors are infamous for having undecipherable handwriting? It's basically sigil magic. And so that's a thing, but we don't have to do it that way. I do sometimes find that I don't like certain words, so I have to come up with a different way of phrasing something. The English language is, Anglo, angel, so English is like developed, related to angels, fallen angels, but anyway, that's a different thing. Yeah, even though angels supposedly taught man how to write, I don't think writing is a bad thing, because Jesus says it is written, so I'm sure that mankind would have just figured out, hey, let's put marks on paper, and then through repetition and word of mouth and training, these marks on paper, they went from complicated pictographs to more and more simple, and then they just become characters, like numerals and letters. So anyway, there's nothing evil about writing, but the English language is certainly fishy, and the Roman alphabet has, like, the A is a capstone, S is a snake, whatever. Then again, maybe I'm reading too much into S being a snake. It's just a squiggle. It could be a river for all I know. That's not really the point. My point is, right now, we're in a position where time's running out, and the most important thing to do is wake people up. And people are starting to wake up, but they have that morning crap in their eyes. And, in the morning, your vision's not good. Your eyes are not working great. You got things in your eyes. And everyone's just so sad and lonely right now that all you can do is just reach out and try and ask them if they're doing alright. Like, if someone's upset, you go, hey, is you okay there? You need someone to talk to? Because people are starved for human companionship, and they're not getting it, so they're turning to consuming media as a poor substitute. And a lot of people are complaining about the media not being to their tastes, as in, people are complaining about YouTubers that used to make good content are now making crap, and they're getting egotistical, and all they show is their face, and all they say is empty junk and garbage. And so, like, all these people are complaining about the quality going downhill. Nothing's stopping these people from doing it themselves. But then there's the harsh critics that are like, they'll bash on anything. You'll know that it's a thing that the more a person bashes on something, the worse they are. They're just projecting. Like, the harsh critics that will bash on a drawing, they can't even hold a pencil, they can't even make a legible stick figure. The people that bash on music, like, they can't even play the drums. They don't have any sense of rhythm. That's just a thing, that people bash on something that they don't even know how to do. They do that to try and discourage people, and a lot of people are too easily discouraged, and tenacity is the most important thing. Patience is the most important thing. If there's something you want to do, you have to not get discouraged. You have to take it slow. You're not going to paint an amazing painting right off the bat. It takes a very long time to get to that level. And during the meantime, people are gonna, like, really hate on an amateur painter and just be really mean to them, because also it's on the internet. You can talk shit on the internet and you can't get punched in the face. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. People should not be getting discouraged. If a person wants to do something, they should just be encouraged to do it and be taught new techniques and new methods of accomplishing their goal. And it's known that people on the internet are really harsh and crazy, because it's like touching a keyboard makes people lose 100 IQ points. Same here. And another dumb thing, though, is that when a person makes a drawing, they put their fancy signature on it, like, good job, you doxed yourself, or that you made it traceable back to an account of yours, and then that account will probably have links to other accounts, so don't do that. Don't put your name on things. Because it's not about you, it's about the message. And the freaks want names. They always demand names. If they get someone's name, they're going to scream that name 100 times. They will scream the name over and over and over. They will signal boost the name so that the person can be harassed by random strangers. So don't give them that. Don't do anything identifiable. And don't get attached to anything. If you just make a drawing, it's a drawing on its own. Maybe you made it, but it's not you. It's just a byproduct of you existing. If you write a story exists on its own. It's a byproduct of you existing. Yeah, just don't put your name on it. Besides, there's nothing new under the sun. And doing these things can raise awareness. Now, you'll probably have heard overused phrases like realize, 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 and that's worthless. Nobody gets anything out of that. It might be true on its own, but it's overused, it's stale, it's empty. You have to find realize, realize, realize is not going to wake anybody up. Drawing stick figures of skeletons and other little details, that can make people start thinking. If you drew an outline of two women and you gave one of them a micro and a beard, that can wake people up because people will go, hey, this image made me realize I don't see this on TV, but I see it in real life. People don't talk about that enough, but yeah, you can just do a lot with a few lines. Minimalism is key. The faster you can make it, the more generic it looks, the better off actually, because then it won't be traced back to you. So, technology started off as some convenient thing and now it's undermining society. And you have to pull out of it. Ideally, this world will end and the good people will be yanked out of it, but that hasn't happened yet, and I haven't seen, the freaks melting yet. So until then, what ideally would be good is people realize that the world sucks, the money is fake, and they would just simply pull out of it and then go back to a natural lifestyle. Instead of ordering shit from China, people would be making their own textiles, people would be making their own clothing, growing their own food, doing their own carpentry, doing their own metalworking, and they would be living in groups that are close together. The houses would all be humble and solidly made, but simple, just very basic, simple houses. The neighbors would be talking to each other, everybody would live in a block, and they would have children, the children would play. Children are great at making friends, they're very outgoing, but the demonic Baphomet children, I think they don't have souls, because they're made in a lab. God didn't make them. They're not made by God. They're evil right off the bat. Ideally in a human commune, where everybody would just, help each other out. They would teach their children valuable skills and trades, and they would just produce everything that they needed in their community, and they wouldn't need outsiders. They wouldn't need to outsource. They wouldn't need to get crap from China. But we don't really live in that world. That world is gone. But theoretically, it could come back. It physically could happen. It's just not going to. There's things that we can do. If you want something, you have to try. And easier said than done. Like, if you want to produce your own content, you might get a good idea on your head, but when you sit down to work on it, you realize it can actually be very difficult, and there's like an idea that you think is a very clear idea. When you put it into words, you realize it's difficult to phrase it carefully. But then the more you do it, the better you get. And the more people that you wake up, that you can bounce ideas off of them, and you can collaborate with each other. You can signal boost each other's messages, because, it's about the message. It's not about names. It's not about identities. Alright, this will have to do for now. And I would love it if a real human being arrived. A few people hear this, but a lot of people they're holding back, but sometimes they help out. You know who's a real person when they're earnestly, genuinely trying to help, and they're extremely rare because Christ's people are very rare, but we will know each other. You just get vibes from each other. I've been deceived a few times, but I've learned from that, and that raises things about conditioning, and we might get an idea when we're younger. We might think, oh, this person is such and such. They have to be good. There's no way that such and such could be a bad person because of reasons. Well, these people lie. They fake things, and you have to use your eyes, you have to use your ears, and you have to remember. Memory is so important. Another thing about the internet is things can get memory holed and wiped and deleted, and the constant barrage of fake news, and all news is fake, and celebrity gossip and just bullshit events. That is real life thread sliding. They're trying to push things out of your memory. But if you sit down and remember, if you talk to another person, a very different person, you can learn new things, you can remember things. And for a long time, the media has been trying to divide people based on age and race and all that, but usually by age. There is such a big division between people based on age, and it's by design. Boomers suck, yeah, but like I keep saying, not everybody born in that time period is a boomer. It's one of those things where there's going to be a few genuine things, and then all of a sudden 10 million billion fakes are produced, and they flood the whole area with more fakes than reals, and that's just how it is. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but do you know how you find a needle in a haystack? You can burn it, and then use a magnet to pick up the needle. So think about it. Burn, magnet. Those two things. Alright, bye.